But there is a conversation that has popped back up over the past few days since the Aaron Rodgers injury on Monday night. Grass versus turf. Oh, yeah. What can be done? You got the NFLPA asking for a change. You've got all of this stuff happening.
They're demanding, Jonas. There's a difference.
Yeah, I mean, Roger Goodell, I believe, was also on ESPN, and he was talking with Stephen A. Smith just about the potential of some surface changes and getting something done, and he's having a sit-down and a back-and-forth with Stephen A., and this is how it sounded.
If the players themselves gave the impression that they would rather play on grass as opposed to artificial turf, what would be the NFL's response to an assertion like that? If they said that to you guys, what would you say?
Well, they have said that in many cases, but you also have other players who like playing on a turf field because it's faster.
That's true.
So you've got a mixed opinions. What we want to go is on science. We want to go on what's the best from an injury standpoint to prevent the injuries, to give our players the best possible surface to play on.
So that was Roger Goodell talking on ESPN.
He's so full of crap.
Oh, jeez.
I've never heard a player say, first off, if you're fast, and just because the turf is fast, okay, you're going to be fast on grass, you're going to be fast on turf. It don't matter. I mean, look, players care about the surface, whether it's turf or field turf. In field turf, they feel like they've got a greater chance of injury. It's hard on their body. If it's real natural grass, they're concerned about the footing, like we saw in the Super Bowl this past year. Like there's always a concern about it in some capacity, and it's either born out of injury prevention or concern over injury and performance. And if you asked a player, I think in probably 80 to 90% of the cases, which one they're more concerned about, they would all say, if I can play on a surface that's going to limit my injury risk, I'm taking that every time. And that's natural grass, not turf. I mean, maybe you see it different, LaVar, but that's how I see it.
I mean, I think the debate is always going to be the debate in terms of what you prefer. But, I mean, if I were to say what my personal preference would have been, it would be natural grass. That's just what I would like.
I've never known any player to like any artificial turf over natural grass. Did you play with guys that like that?
I mean, maybe there were a few. I never really took inventory like that. I really I don't know. Only time I'd ever take inventory on surfaces is if the surface was poor, like if it was just a mud bath of a field, or if it was raining, and that was just more or less what bottoms, what type of cleats am I going to use on. I never looked at it. And maybe I'm guilty of that. I guess I was spoiled coming from an agricultural school. I just never really looked at. Yeah, I just never took inventory of what the field surface is, other than, like I said, like Michigan. You go into Michigan, you'd be like, this freaking stinks. Like, you're picking up chunks of grass and putting it back in. Like, think about this. Like,
well, they have field turf now.
Yeah, so. Right. But I'm saying, for me, when I was playing, my mind didn't go to the field unless it really became an issue. Like, oh, I'm trying to take off on a blitz, and I looked back after slipping like crazy to try to get off of the ball to go blitz, and I literally, like on like a putting green or on like a golf course, I got to go take a chunk of grass and put it back into where it is that it just got like totally pushed out of.
A divot, I believe they call it.
Yeah, and golf, I guess.
Brady,
I don't
take
know what
notes.
you call it.
It's called a divot.
I don't know what you call it.
Let me write this down.
Yeah, divot.
T-I-V-O-T-J-O-N-A.
I wouldn't even know how to spell. Oh, he's spelling something different.
J-E-R-K. Okay.
Oh,
gotcha.
Got that down.
Yeah, he's spelling something else.
Damn.
So to me, all of this is being sparked off of the Aaron Rodgers injury, and everybody talking about all the injuries that take place in the surfaces in MetLife. And that very well could be accurate, that these injuries are taking place because of the surface.
You're being so measured about this. This is like not the LaVar that's on the player side that I'm used to hearing.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing.
Get him,
I
VAR.
think that injury happens on any surface, just the way it played out.
That one, exactly. Like, I do find, to that point, I do find it interesting that This injury is the one they're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
we need
like
grass.
this- right.
You're like, dude, a guy landed on him. Like, it was going to happen probably
Like,
no matter what surface he was
literally
on.
landed on that man's leg. Like, weight down, bloom. Like, he's underneath him. He landed on him. Like, you can't say, oh, well, his foot would have given out if it was grass and not turf. His foot, you have cleats on.
Yeah.
You have cleats. So whether it's dirt or whether it's flubber, you're going to get caught into the surface when somebody's body lands on top of your leg like that.
Can we play a game where you guys are the NFLPA and I can act as the owner in this case?
Oh man, I love it. All right,
Here we go.
let's get some game show music that would be appropriate
Yeah.
for NFL.
I mean, it's not really a game, but let's look at some game show music.
Well,
Let's
why
go.
not?
Why not? It's radio.
You know,
Let's
that's what
dice
we
this
do.
up a
Have
little
fun
bit.
with it. Oh.
All right.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, I like this. This is like the negotiating negotiation room.
Oh,
the
this is
war
like
room.
Shark Tank. All right, let's go.
It's like
Oh.
Quinn versus Breer,
Well,
Volume
this
2.
is like NFL films.
You guys really played that up. Now, look, here's what I'm not going to do for our listeners.
What?
For all our devout listeners, I'm not going to let someone come on our show and spew some BS about whatever they're getting pushed by the team or some agent. All right, I'm not going to let that.
I don't know, man. I was really torn on who won that.
Oh, no, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
all right,
go ahead,
let's
Q.
play this game.
Go ahead, Q.
Well, you guys are the NFLPA in this case, so you guys are probably pleading at some point to an owner about,
Yeah.
or Roger Goodell in this case, about having natural turf.
LaVar, I got this.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Owner,
Oh, wow.
we've had it up to here, and my hand is at my Adam's apple.
Oh, wow.
We're tired of playing on this turf crap.
Yeah.
We don't care how many concerts you're going to roll in here.
Yeah.
If these soccer teams from Istanbul can put on a friendly and get natural grass,
Yeah.
we demand that our game is played on natural grass moving forward. So make a change now,
Yeah.
or else.
Or
LaVar,
else.
you tell him.
Or else.
Well, listen here, young man.
Well, listen here. Listen
Let me
here.
ask you this: Do you is there a thing called a collective bargaining agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys ask for this in the collective bargaining agreement that we negotiated over?
No.
No.
Oh, well, okay. Here's how it works now, there, son. If you want something, you have to give up something to get that in return.
Yeah.
What are you willing to give up?
We won't smoke weed as much.
Yeah.
I'm talking not about that sort of green, son. Something that's got a little more monetary value to it.
Yeah.
You know, us owners, see, if we're going to be replacing this field turf
We
with
have
half
to
the
pay
fields
for it.
now, field turf, we're going to have to pay for it. We're going to have to
Yeah.
pay for, the cost of how much it costs to maintain it.
Yeah.
And that's going to cost millions and millions of dollars, 7 to 8 figures a year.
All right, well, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, what can you do?
And there's the end of discussion. Like,
It's over.
let's be real about this. This is about money.
Oh,
this
right.
is about
Right
32,
when the song ended, too. Holy
32
smokes. The
private
impeccable timing
owners
of you guys. Holy
who are
moly.
saying who's going to foot the bill for this natural grass? Who's going to foot the bill for putting in a system where, like, the other caveat to this whole conversation is, if you're a team that doesn't have a dome and you won a Super Bowl and you have to be up north, you got to build a new stadium. And you have to build an enclosed stadium. So the difficulty then becomes, okay, you're building a dome. Let's say you're Cleveland, for example, place obviously I played. You've got natural grass. Great grass. Awesome grass. They did a tremendous job in Cleveland.
Bermuda.
But the problem is now, if they win a Super Bowl there, what do they got to do? Build a new stadium, put in a dome. Because they're not going to play the Super Bowl in February in Cleveland, risk that sort of weather that's going to impact the game. That's just not where the NFL is at anymore. So if you want a Super Bowl, you want that economic stimulus to your city, you got to build a new stadium, has to be a dome if it's up north. All right, that's fine. Well, grass doesn't grow inside unless you have one of those ridiculously expensive.
Like Arizona, right?
Well, Arizona's different because it doesn't grow inside. They
roll
move it
in,
outside,
right?
And then they move it in.
Right.
But there is, I believe it's Manchester United. Lee can probably check this up, or maybe Sam knows. One of them has like an indoor like UV light system. It's ridiculously expensive, but they can do it. Like, you can do it, but there's an expense to it. I think it costs like $250 million or something.
You can grow weed indoors, and they call it indo.
Correct. There's all sorts of ways of growing a lot of things indoors.
Straight up, man.
Straight up.
What up,
They grow that indoors all day long.
Trust me, I've been to the valley out there in Southern
It'd be
California.
real green too. Like it'd be
What up,
super green.
But you get the general point.
I mean, from what I've heard.
There's an expense to this. Who's going to foot the bill? And then on top of that, there's other places that aren't concerned about, putting in grass. They're like, okay, how do I get a Super Bowl? How do I? And then the question becomes, all right, if I'm having a dome, I'm going to have all these concerts and different things. You're going to be tearing up the grass. And now, granted, you could put down some other artificial, surface for those events. But there's a lot more money involved than I think people realize. And unless the NFLPA is willing to give up a portion of the revenue share to pay for this, that's probably the position the owners are going to take. Otherwise, that's got to be your number one priority heading into the next CBA, which isn't due for quite some time. And your other option is, okay, then you strike. Is this that big of a deal with the players going to strike about it? No.
There is some irony to this, because I remember when the CBA was signed last time, Aaron Rodgers was one of the most vocal as far as, clearly some guys didn't read this through. Clearly some guys just signed off on this, and the owners once again got one over on us. And yet here we are all these years later, and they're trying to go
Aaron
back.
Rodgers is the recipient of clearly those guys should have read it more. You think he's sitting somewhere right now like those mother effers did not read the fine print of
It doesn't
the
matter if
field
people
surface.
did. Like, they could read the fine print, and it's like, what's your recourse?
Right.
Even if you don't like the deal. I mean, look, I was on the calls during the lockout, and there were players then in leadership positions who were pushing that deal. It wasn't a good deal. I mean, the reality is the owners have continually wiped the mat with the players' union since DeMaurice Smith took over. They've been slowly giving away ground. Now, they've made some strides here and there, small incremental, strides in various areas, but there's never been one or two or three big issues that are wins for the NFLPA like there are for the owners. And honestly, it usually always comes down to money, and this is one where you have to have enough owners that say an injury to Aaron Rodgers hurts my bottom line so much that it's worth it for me to put in grass, a la what Steve Bisciotti did in Baltimore. There used to be field turf. They went to grass because they have Lamar Jackson. They said, we aren't going to risk this with our players. That obviously happened after the Steve Smith Sr. injury. But you got to have an owner that wants to do it. He has to be able to say, this is what I'm going to do for the best interest of my players and take on that expense. Otherwise, it ain't happening. It's not going to be collectively a bargain. The union can be upset all they want. It's not going to change.